Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we talk about a very specific situation and a test that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. Uh, this is the entire reason that I put this AMD test bench together. Let's talk about this setup and see if we can get some additional performance by using two GPUs instead of one. So the goal of this presentation is to not waste your money. That seems like a very odd statement to make when we're talking about dual GPUs. I saw a live stream today by another content creator, very well respected in the community. It was excellent to see this information come out, but he had a very unique setup. He was running Threadripper and multiple 5090s. I mean, we're talking if you've got unlimited resources, this is what you build. This is what you do. That's not me, and that's probably not the most of the ones that are watching this channel. Like I'm trying to find the ways to that we can get the most performance, but yet let's keep the cost to something reasonable here. And that's no shade to the content creator. I really enjoyed watching that. There's some things I wish went a little bit differently. He said he's going to have some information come out a little bit later. But nonetheless, it made me realize that I need to stop sitting on this information and get it out to you. This has been something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. Can you maximize performance with multiple GPUs? And is it possible to actually save money? You know, in this market, look what these GPUs are going for. So is it possible in this situation? Let's look at two 5080s and see what the results can be. Okay, so let's look at the system that we used in a little bit greater detail. This is the AMD test bench that I've built. It has the 9900X, not the X3D, the 9900X. I felt that that was good enough for content creation. I mean, we're not using this for gameplay. It plays games fine, but this CPU is no slouch. And I chose specifically the ASRock Tai Chi Lite. The Tai Chi and the Tai Chi Lite both had the feature set that I needed. The Tai Chi Lite was just cheaper. Now, there are other boards that run in a similar PCI Express lane configuration. They're ultimately more expensive. And so what I did was went shopping for a very specific setup, and I wanted PCI lanes that would run either in X16 or in dual by X8. Most of the boards, if you go looking, will be either run in a single configuration in X16, or they'll split it into X8 and X4. So I needed something that would run in X8. And then I went into, you can go into the BIOS and set them that I'm running dual X8 and set up your GPUs in that fashion. So what does this really matter? So if you're looking at PCI Express 5 and in an X16 configuration, your gigabytes per second is 63. And if you run it in dual X8, it's 31.5 theoretical gigabyte per second. Now, this is the X16 PCI Express 4 maximum rate. So all you're doing is getting the Gen 4 max rate when you divide them by X8 in PCI Express 5. So if you're thinking that, for example, if you want the bus speed of the 4090, I'll take two 4090s. I'm happy with that transfer rate. But if you would go from a X16 and then cut it to a X8 and X4, you might see a performance decrease by 1% or 2. It's other content creators have talked about this in terms of gameplay, but you get a reduction in your throughput, and it may translate over. You might see that difference. But in this situation, if you get two lanes that run in dual X8, that's maximizing your throughput when you're putting in two of the cards. So here are the two GPUs that we've tested, and those are both 5080s, the Gigabyte Gaming OC and the Prime OC as well. So they're both overclock cards, but I was told that if you use two cards, then you're only going to get the performance of the slowest one, but they'll share the memory. So when I set up the test for this, it's, if you've been following along with my 50 series deep dives, the tests are the same. I've got synthetic benchmarks. I try to control as many variables as possible. Go back and check some of those other videos if you want to see exactly all the nitty gritty of how I ran these tests. I don't want to make these videos long-winded again, but I'm trying to make sure that we're doing synthetic benchmarks as well as rendering times and like actual use and performance. Like what is my benefit there? So do my rendering times actually improve? And that's, make you more productive, and you want to use two cards. So when you're looking at the synthetic benchmarks, the 5080s were previously presented in other videos. I just listed them here. And then when I put the two 5080s together in the AMD board, I got a 33% reduction in performance. Oops. So Speedway was slower. I got frustrated, did not run these, started running the VR Mark, saw significant reduction in performance, jumped to performance test just to see if, and they were significantly slower. So then I said, well, maybe I set this up wrong. What about my productivity benchmarks? So here are your productivity benchmarks. And as soon as I loaded V-Ray and started running the GPU data, bingo, look at those numbers. I mean, this is what I was expecting. You have the individual numbers here listed, and then you got a doubling of your performance. Now that's what I wanted to see. And then I got excited, like perfect. I set everything up correctly. It's using both GPUs. This is what I wanted. Then I ran Blender, and it didn't matter. And I started with Game Tech Bench, and I ran one instance, and I'm like, it's not working. So then I went back to the synthetic benchmarks and ran some of them again, and it didn't matter. Like once I knew that I set up the system correctly, then I tried to go back and go, okay, maybe I did something wrong the first time. Nope, it was the same, didn't work. So let's jump into Davinci Resolve, and let's do some rendering. Let's do some Puget Bench benchmarks, and let's do some rendering. So I just basically hit all of the data up here on the slide. Take a moment and read through this. This is previous. I've reported this before, but what I want to highlight here is I've organized them from the basic score, the highest performing basic score down to the least performing basic score. And I do have some mix and match runs in here. Let me explain this a minute. I have some Studio 20 runs. Previously, I did a lot of work with my Studio 19 1.3. And I've also tried to play with drivers to see if the driver version or the type of driver would matter. So in the test bench, which is my Intel bench, I ran game ready drivers and then went back and installed studio drivers to see if the type of driver mattered. So this is why there's so many different types of runs here. And what you see is the 5080 Prime OC had a 14,702 score. But when I was running these two 5080s, I didn't have 20. And Puget Bench wasn't supported in 20, so I had to run it in 19. But the fastest 19 was, there we go, we're at 14.2. That's the 5070 Ti. And here is the 5080 OC Gaming at 14,290. Single card, 14,000 basic score. Where did the two 5080s fall? Dead last. Anybody autocross that watches this thing, you don't want to end up in DFL. You don't want to end up as the dead last place. That's where we are. The 5070 single card performance beat dual 5080s. definitely not what I wanted to see. And it would only give me a basic score, even when I'm a Studio 19 user. I tried to run it multiple times. It wouldn't result the standard score. And that's the score you get if you're a Studio version user. So I was only able to get the basic. So it didn't like this at all. And look at it's got the score to prove it. Um, so very disheartened. So what happened? Other content creators have actually made this work, or at least they stated they made it work. There's a YouTube short that outlined a gentleman with a 3080 and a 3090, which I have, and I reached out to this gentleman after seeing this.
Currently rendering a 4K YouTube video in Davinci Resolve, and the 3080 in the rear right there and the 3090 right up front are working very nicely together. 12900K, 64 gigs of Kingston Fury DDR5 RAM, all custom water cooled with the Davinci Resolve speed editor. That greatly helps out actually with my editing times, like 50%. But you'll notice both GPUs working hand in hand together. 3090, 3080. Yeah, it's going quite nicely. Helps to greatly cut down rendering times.
And I reached out to him for a couple different instances. I didn't get a response from him. It's okay. He didn't have to respond to me. I was just trying to see exactly how he set his up, a little bit more detail on his setup. I was unable to communicate with him, but I've moved on to 50 series cards. So, and more current software and more current hardware. So I thought I could make this work. And when you look at Puget Bench, they actually publish their render benchmarks. And some of these stats are concerning. And when you look at them closer, let's take a peek. So this is a graph of two 4090s. Looking at this is a range between DaVinci Resolve 18 and 19 and benchmark 1.1x. So earlier versions of DaVinci Resolve and the benchmark. So looking at two 4090s compared to one 4090 on the older versions, the one 4090 averaged faster than the two 4090s. This was concerning. How about still older software, older benchmark, and two 4090s and a current 5070 Ti? When you're looking at two 4090s versus a single 5070 Ti, the 5070 Ti was on average faster than the two 4090s. You don't really see this coming. This isn't really what I expected at all. But this is what is being reported. Now you don't know their other setup information. This is just the summary graph of all of the runs, and they average them out. So there are different CPUs, different setups here. We're just looking at the performance of the GPUs within these individual systems. So there are some variables here, I understand, but I think that's where the means come in here. And there's quite a separation on this graph, especially when you're spending the money on two 4090s versus one 5070 Ti. Okay, so let's move up to their reporting DaVinci Resolve 20 and the newer benchmark of 1.2. Now, there's not as many runs in this one. I'm contributing to this, but there are some users that are publishing this data. And this is a comparison of the 5090 versus the 5080. The 5090 is, look at that line, from complete ends of the graph. It is so wide. I'm not sure that the software knows exactly what to do with 5090's performance and cores. The graph is much tighter on the 5080, like it's more predictable results. That wide graph is just insane to me. You could either be way down the line of horrible performance or kicking the crap out of the 5080 on the far right side. I mean, you want to roll the dice and figure out which one you get. Now, I'm sure there's probably a lot of system differences here, but to have that level of variance, that's a lot. How about looking at the 5070 Ti versus the 5080? Now, if you've been following along, and I hope you have, this information shouldn't come as much of a shock to you. And now I've got independent results to actually back up what I found is that it's not that far apart. The 5070 Ti is right there with the 5080. And yeah, the 5080 in this line can go quicker than the 5070 Ti, but on average, it's not much different, right? So what are you paying for these cards versus what you're getting? Now, that doesn't mean that they won't continue to work on drivers and optimizing the performance. But if I'm choosing between these two, hey, go check out my other videos. You'll get the idea. And finally, let's look at the 5090 versus the 5070 Ti. The 5090, again, completely from end to end of this map. Now, the 5070 Ti also is a little strung out there too, if you will, if you can see that. I mean, but the average is a little bit farther apart, right? And so it does recognize that the 5090 has more horsepower. What I've learned is the 5070 is no slouch, right? I mean, it's not a 5090. I'm not trying to say that it is, but maybe with a little bit more time and figuring out these benchmarks, um, I don't know. I'd like to see them support more than one card, or tighten this up a little bit. I'm not sure. I'm not sure all the other factors that are at play here, but I mean, it's respectable for performance for the 5070 and the 5080, and the 5090. I'm not sure it knows what to do with all that horsepower. So I did have a conversation with Blackmagic Design, and they told me that dual GPUs are not supported, and there's no plans to support them at this time. I'm sending other emails and trying to speak with some other individuals in hopes to get more information to report to the group. And the one tech advised me to go to the forum, and I posted a question. I actually didn't get a single response. I don't think there's a lot of activity on the forum. I think they're trying to drum up activity. It didn't give me any assistance. So I guess maybe that's going to take some time, but it's concerning because I was really buying in. I bought an extra platform for my CPU case. I was the CPU and all the wiring and the ribbon cables to extend up to the board. I was all about bringing two GPUs into this rendering machine, but it doesn't seem like that's money well spent. So this didn't actually achieve the goal. And when I said don't waste your money, if you know what 5090s are going for today, it's over $3,000. I was hopeful that two 5080s would exceed the performance of a 5090. But we didn't get there. And that would be kind of a wash in terms of price, because I think if you're looking at two $1,500 cards or a $3,000 card in today's market, unfortunately, man, that is horrible to say, right? But you're probably better off to spend the $3,000 in one card. But what happens if you get better performance with two 5070 Ti's? I mean, if you can find them for MSRP or close to that, which you can, that's $750 to $800. Two of those is definitely cheaper than one 5090. And then I wanted to compare it to 5090 results. If I got my hands on a 5090 to run those benchmarks with my own systems and then compare this data. But I got disheartened and sent back my extra 5080 and 5070 Ti. I can't hold on to that kind of money in hopes that maybe it'll be supported or work one day. Now that Davinci Resolve 20 full version is out, maybe I should revisit it. And from the live stream today, there were some individuals that said that they were actually getting great performance with two cards. I'm not sure what they were doing, because I've put a lot of time into trying to figure this out. If if you are one of those individuals and are getting good performance with 2 cards and noticing when you compare one versus 2, because I think that's really what I would have appreciated today. I'm not saying that the hardware that I saw today with the Threadripper can't do what I was trying to do. I mean, in this level of hardware, maybe it truly isn't possible, but the Threadripper could do that. And I would have loved to have seen, here's the Threadripper with one 5090 versus here's the Threadripper with two 5090s versus three 5090s, and really give me a stepwise approach like I was presenting to the group here previously. I said, well, when you go to 5070 to a 5070 Ti, this is the uplift you get. 5070 Ti to 5080, this is the uplift you get. 5080 to an overclocked 5080, this is the uplift you get, and help you understand what it is you're getting for your return on investment. But I mean, it was a fun video. Maybe I need to try it again with this type of hardware. Try the AMD bench again. Or is this kind of a moot point? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm willing to revisit this if there's enough interest. It's fun. I can give it a shot. And it would be great if two 5070 Ti's could actually work and get 5090 performance. That's what one individual claimed that they were getting. That's really what I wanted to prove, and I didn't get to prove that. So let me know what you think, and there'll be more to come. Stay safe. God bless.